And welcome back, everyone, to Freaky Tales Podcast on this Freaky Friday, the first Friday of October, episode 32. I want to thank everybody in the live chat. I want to thank everybody who subscribed, everybody who's liked, shared, comment, and everybody who disliked. It doesn't matter because you're still watching. So once again, welcome to the first Friday of October. Before I introduce my special guest, once again, he is no stranger to Freaky Tales Podcast, but the documentary website for the moment is down due to construction. We're going to have new product up there soon, so please bear with us. Other than that, for those of you that don't care to call in but still want to continue to share your stories, you can email those at freakytalespodcast@gmail.com, freakytalespodcast@gmail.com. And if you don't care to email, maybe you care to follow us on Instagram, Freaky Tales Podcast on Instagram. Freaky Tales Podcast on Instagram. Soon, I will be starting a Freaky Tales TikTok. And what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be going to a lot of these places where a lot of these crimes, paranormal things have happened. And I'm going to record them so that you guys can check them out. And maybe eventually we'll even get the chance to talk to them on Freaky Tales. So once again, be looking out for Freaky Tales Podcast on TikTok. So with that being said, without further ado, please allow me to introduce my very special guest of the night, Mike Santana. Mike, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yes, you know what? First and foremost, let me say this. I know your Instagram is up on the screen, so people can go there and follow you. And even after the show, it'll be on the details, so people can go and just click on the link and follow you. A few, if not, maybe was it a few months ago or maybe not that long ago, we actually did a podcast. Well, I did a podcast with you.
Yeah.
And it did very well. I promoted it on my end. So I want to encourage all you guys that when you subscribe or follow him on his Instagram, make sure you guys click on his bio and subscribe to his podcast. I think, what do you have, about 1,500 subscribers? 1,500,
clear 1,500.
Yeah, let's get at least 2,000. Okay, so I want to encourage everyone, click on his bio and go to his YouTube and subscribe, because he has a lot of interesting stuff, especially stuff that has to do with murder. Okay, so Mike, let me ask you my very first question. What intrigued you? What made you get into looking into, I guess, murder cases?
Well, that's always been a thing. Well, when I say always, I mean somewhere in high school. You know, it kind of started you follow these cases. And for me, the first one that I can remember was the assassination of JFK.
Wow.
And so I had to do a report on that. And at the time, I just thought, okay, I'm going to do a report on something. I'll take that just so I can get this report out of the way. And then from that point, it became an obsession. You know, even in high school, you know, I was carrying around books, checked out from the library, trying to show my friends, check this out, check that out. Became an obsession. And, you know, I've been out to Dealey Plaza where it happened already twice, you know, including the 50-year anniversary in 2013, just to be there and check it out, you know.
Wow. You know, let me ask you, because I haven't been there. Of course, that will happen in, if I'm correct, Dallas, right?
Correct.
Okay, I've been to Dallas twice. I guess I just never bothered to look into where it happened. Just to kind of not I guess we can kind of get into it. But do you think Lee Harvey Oswald was the only one?
Well, over the years, my view on it has kind of altered. In the beginning, when I first started looking into it in the early 90s, I was like, oh, no. You know, he didn't do nothing. He's a patsy, like he said. The headshot was from the front, the grassy knoll. But, you know, as you get older, you kind of, and you get deeper into the research, I want to say he was involved either involuntary or voluntarily, probably involuntarily, you know, because we know he definitely brought the rifle into the building that morning. He brought a long carrying case or long bag that he said was drapes. So we know that. So as you look at it, maybe coincidentally there was another shooter in the front You know, I mean, I've heard very, very smart people say, no, Lee Harvey Oswald was the only cat involved, even with JFK's head snapping back like that. So
Right.
the physics of everything and the kind of the triangular shape of the streets there, it just throws a bunch of layers into everything. So it's just a matter of what you believe based on the research
Right.
that you find.
I've never thought, and I'm not a private investigator or a detective or anything like that, but
Right.
I never thought that he did it himself, because this is what convinced me. I saw a special one time where they used the same kind of rifle from the same room. He put the bullet in, cocked it back, shot it. Keep in mind, it's a moving target.
Sure.
Then he put, if I'm correct, another bullet in and cocked it back, and then, bam. It was too quick to do that. You, at least in my opinion, you damn nearly, you had to be perfect.
Yeah, you definitely had to be perfect. Depending on what you believe and how many shots were fired.
Okay.
I've heard 4, I've heard 5. Keep in mind the first shot was already cocked. So he didn't have to do that. You know, in my estimation, he was already ready. So if it was him, you know,
Right.
I'm not trying to push a narrative. I'm just saying if it was him in that time span, the first one, I would assume, is already ready to go. You know, and then bang, cock, bang, cock, boom. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So there was a bullet fragment that hit a guy down the street
Okay.
that you can also attest to being maybe a 4th shot. So obviously we'll never know, but we always have the Zapruder film
Right.
to break things down, you know?
The crazy thing is, somebody knows.
Sure.
You know. And did you see JFK with
Costner. Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner?
Yeah, many, many times.
What did you think about that? Do you think they shed any light on anything?
I think it was extremely far-fetched, but Oliver Stone said that that's what he intended to do.
Okay.
He's not saying this happened or that happened. He just wants us to have more of an open mind.
Okay.
You know, the stuff that interests me is where the shots came from, not so much who did it.
Right.
So,
Okay. And even years ago in the 80s, I saw a Nostradamus movie where he even predicted the death of JFK.
right.
There was going to be another shooter. You know what? I'm going to be real with you. I've never believed so much JFK. I mean, not JFK, Nostradamus. There's a lot of people that have told me, oh, you know, you got to read the books of Nostradamus. Everything that he said is happening. Well, I've also encouraged people too. Look at the stuff that he so-called predicted that never happened. You know, now, if we want to go back to the Old Testament days, if you were considered a prophet and you missed one, you were stoned to death.
Just one.
Just one. So if I were to say, by this time tomorrow, there's going to be a woman right here giving away free bread. If that woman didn't show up, I was a false prophet, and I get stoned.
Sure.
By judicial law, that like by that's the way the Jewish people lived. You know, the Israelis, and but if you miss one, and then Nostradamus missed so many, look into that. But anyway, switching gears here, I'm glad that we touched on that JFK. I've always found that very interesting. But there was one that we wanted to talk about was Amanda Knox. For people that may not know who Amanda Knox is, can you share with us, please?
Yeah, Amanda Knox was an American student studying abroad in Italy, Perugia specifically. And it was a very, very popular case, 07. It happened right around Halloween. Well, they're saying the death of her roommate was November 1st. So the body was discovered November 2nd. Anyway, so she had this little cottage that they rented out. Okay, her and the victim's name was Meredith Kircher. And I believe they had another roommate.
Okay.
So Amanda had met a guy named Raffaele Solicito, an Italian cat. So her and him were, you know, doing the first few days, hanging out in
Right.
love type of stuff. So according to Amanda's story, her and Raffaele were gone. Meredith was at the little, I'll call it a little cottage. It's not, I don't know if it's a house, but it's a small little cottage type thing. She was there presumably alone. November 2nd, Amanda Knox, the girl from Seattle, who's staying out there, comes home. Her front door is wide open. She's by herself, by the way. Front door is wide open. The house isn't particularly any messier than it was when she left. So Amanda goes into the restroom to take a shower. There's a couple of little drips of blood in the sink, which she looked at it, but she was like, okay, no biggie at this point. Takes a shower, gets out of the shower, steps down on the mat. Then she notices a big ring of blood on the mat.
Wow.
So it's at that point, she's like, okay, what's going on? And then she glances over into the toilet. Somebody left feces in the toilet, didn't flush.
Wow.
So then at that point, it freaked her out. She goes back outside, calls Raffaele. They come up to the house. The police come, right? They call the police. They break down Meredith's door because it was shut. And they find her under a blanket and bloodied up. Her bra and her clothes are strewn about. It's just a mess in there. She's dead. You know what I mean? So there's famous footage. Any Amanda Knox true crime aficionados will attest to this. There's footage of Amanda and her boyfriend outside of the cottage, kind of hugging and kissing. You know, to me, it looked like they were consoling each other, but to the main investigators, they thought that was weird. They thought, well, why are they outside cuddling and, stuff like that? So the main investigator kind of looked at her and him. What's going on here? And in his experience, females would be the ones covering bodies for whatever reason, with a blanket, T-shirt. So they were looking at her hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she, fought it. I didn't do anything. Check me out. Check everything out. So at any rate, she ended up going to prison.
Wow.
For this, right? And it was a huge story out here. There was a total of, there was 1, 2, 3, I guess 4 trials if you count them all. They really had no evidence, actually no DNA evidence of her in the room where Meredith died at. Nor did they have anything of Raffaele. But because of behavior, but because they wanted to pin it on her, they put so much pressure on her that she was giving false statements, statements that didn't really make sense, pinning it on other people. When they broke everything down, they started to look at it on an appeals court. So the first trial, she's convicted. Then they appeal it, right? Her side appeals it.
Right.
Then they have a crew of investigators come in there and look at how the evidence was tested. Was there any contamination? Then you find out that they tested some 50 items all together on a table area, which is a huge no-no.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's a potential for cross-contamination. On a bra clasp underneath a rug 46 days after the murder, they find Amanda's boyfriend's DNA on it. Kind of sketchy, 46 days later, you know what I mean? They find a knife in her boyfriend's apartment that has Meredith's DNA, Amanda's DNA, and his DNA on it. So there was a bunch of layers to this. Then they started digging in. After she got convicted, she got acquitted, right? Second trial. Comes back home to Seattle. But the Italian courts are like, no, we're going to try you again. They try her again, and she's convicted.
Wow.
Right? So finally, the Italian Supreme Court stepped in and acquitted her finally. And everyone's going to know Amanda Knox's name based on something presumably she did not do. The cat that did it, his DNA was everywhere in the room, by the way, but they failed to touch up on that. Rudy Gaudet, he was kind of a drifter guy, thief, got in a lot of trouble. He breaks in and has his way with Meredith, kills her. So,
did anybody know this guy?
Yeah. So the police have an informant that's his best friend or one of his good friends.
Okay.
So they have a recorded phone call between this informant guy and Rudy. They're on the phone, and Rudy says, yeah, I was there with Meredith, just me and her. I go to the restroom. See, here's the story he's already covering for himself. I go to the restroom. When I come out, she's dead. Right? He goes, I heard a commotion, which is why I didn't flush the toilet. You know what I mean? So, which is why there was, feces in the toilet. And then he's all, by the way, Amanda Knox didn't have a thing to do with this. This is all recorded. You know what I mean? So his DNA was everywhere. His DNA was inside of Meredith. I mean, it's a crazy thing. So they arrest him. But they still go after Amanda because they think Amanda and her boyfriend and this Rudy guy had some kind of orgy thing going on that turned bad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they convict him. He changes his story. He says he thinks he saw Amanda and her boyfriend as, you know, in the shadows. And anyway, so Amanda's all over the tabloids, out there, over here. And most people don't even know the guy that did its name, you know, Rudy Gaudet. And he's already released from prison. You know, he was sentenced to 16 years, and they let him out to finish up some community service. And now he's working at some library in Italy. And just a different world, man.
Wow.
And this was in 07.
That's what I was about to ask. You said 07.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and where is she, Amanda Knox, living at?
She's in, well, her parents' house is in Seattle.
Okay.
So now she's an activist for, you know, falsely being in prison, you know, for people like that. And she kind of fights for them now. That's her whole thing. But
right, but now that her name's been dragged through the mud and everything, you know.
Dragged through the mud, you know.
Wow. Okay. Now, you know, and I was going to ask you when you were, before you mentioned that the killer's DNA was all in the room, did the evidence point to anyone else? But you covered that, obviously, but they just failed not to pursue that, I guess.
They failed to not pursue that based on, you know, the American girl out front hanging out, you know. At the time, she had a MySpace page, and her nickname was Foxy Knoxy. So the tabloids took that. Oh, Foxy Knoxy, okay, you're a sex deranged, you know, young little American that wants to come out here and F around with people. And
right.
Maybe you get into these crazy, like, little orgies or whatever the case is. And they just overlooked everything that they could have used.
So it's almost like saying you fit the kind of person we're looking for, in a sense.
You fit it. And not only that, you're kind of pointing, you're so distraught, you're pointing fingers in other directions because you don't know what to do. You know, you did it. He did it. You know, and those were just forced confessions, you know, according to what her story is. And plus, her DNA was nowhere in the room, you know, and it's a messy room, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. We have a couple of others here that I wanted to bring up. One of them was, I hope I'm not pronouncing it right, Sherry Jo Bates. Yeah,
Sherry Jo Bates. That case is going to be 55 years old. November 1st is when they, I'm sorry, Halloween morning, so October 30th. Again, another Halloween or around Halloween. There's a few cases like that.
Wow.
Around that date, you know what I mean? So October 30th is when she was presumably killed, found on October 31st. And that is a case that, for one, it's local to me. It's in Riverside. It's at RCC, Riverside City College. October 30th, 1966.
Okay.
And to this day, it's still unsolved. Now, the reason why that gets a lot of recognition, that case, because it is believed by a lot of people, not necessarily me, that that is one of the first Zodiac killer victims, or one of his early victims.
Right.
Based on letters sent to her family, letters sent to the police. This guy was kind of taunting, you know, after the fact.
Right.
So she goes to the library on a Sunday, which was, the library was open from 6 to 9 p.m. She goes on a Sunday to the library. A couple people see her go in. A couple people see her inside. Nobody sees her leave. And the next morning, they find her near the library, you know, face down, dead. And her car had been tampered with. She had a VW Beetle. And somebody removed the distributor coil wire, so she couldn't start it. So the theory is, you know, she couldn't start the vehicle.
Right.
This guy comes along, hey, I got a car over here. I can help you out, you know. And she's found about 150 feet, something like that, from the library. I just did a recent episode on this, true crime episode, where I visit the crime scene. I visit where she walked to the library and see how it looks now 55 years later. And for the most part, there's a drastic change at RCC of how it looks.
Right.
But the main components of her murder, as far as where she walked and things, are roughly the same. You know, the library, the quadrangle building, it's all there. You know, the library's not in that same part of the building anymore,
right,
but that same walkway's there and everything. So,
did they ever share how she was killed?
Yeah, there was. She was kicked in the head a few times, and she was stabbed quite a bit. Chest, neck, you know, ribs. And there were 3 letters sent, one to her dad, one to the police department, and one to the Riverside Daily Press. And
that's what people think that it could have been, or they think it was Zodiac?
Correct. And so he wrote Bates had to die. There will be more. Things to this effect. So there's those 3 letters, right? Then there was a confession letter that was sent to the Riverside Daily Press, and that was a typed letter describing how it went down. This cat said her car wouldn't start because I pulled the wire. And then, so I told her, I got a car down the street, I'll give you a ride. And then I told her it's time, and she said, time for what? And I said, it's time to die. And I killed her at that point. But see, the problem with that is the Daily Press already released most of the details, so it could have been anyone alive around those times. So that I don't hold much credit into. The 3 letters that were sent, in 2016, somebody wrote to the police department saying that was him as a kid. He was troubled. He's the one that sent all 3 of those. So according to Riverside PD's statement, they confirmed and verified by testing, I guess, the stamps, DNA-wise now, you know. And apparently those 3 letters weren't from the Zodiac. You know, again, depending on what you believe, because they never did catch the Zodiac.
Right. You know, and not to go off on a rabbit trail with the Zodiac, but, I mean, we can only speculate because I'm not a pro at this, but why do you think you couldn't catch him? Do you believe it's because he was necessarily a part of law enforcement, so that he was always ahead of everyone? And I'm speaking on the Zodiac.
On the Zodiac specifically, that's a good theory. That's been done before where, you know, like the Hillside Strangler.
Yeah.
You know, was somewhat of a police. I don't know if he was necessarily a police officer, but he was somewhere along those lines where he wasn't questioned when he pulled people over. So it very well could be where they're not going to question this guy.
Right.
You know, but he rolled up. I mean, the Zodiac, if you haven't seen the movie or read Robert Graysmith's book on it, I mean, he rolled up 2 cars and just bang, 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 you know. So he didn't necessarily have to pull most people over. He could have been dressed in a certain outfit where they wouldn't question him. But you have those 2 that were killed at the lake, or wounded at the lake. Remember, that's the famous picture where he's dressed in the black. I think it was Lake Berryessa. The shooting there and the stabbing there, he came dressed in a weird outfit, you know, and he had like this medallion hanging, and he had this black square mask over his face. And
wow.
Yeah, so they never caught him.
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, if you ever Googled the Zodiac, that picture will come up. It's a drawing by, I believe, Robert Graysmith drew it. You know, Jake Gyllenhaal played him in the movie, and you can see him drawing it. You know,
wow,
because that was a description from one of the victims. This guy was wearing just this weird outfit, you know. But
wow.
As far as why they never caught him, I think back then you have such a head start on things without DNA testing. You can just leave whatever, you know. It's probably not a good idea to do that, but if you did leave blood or semen, saliva, unless they save it 50 years later,
right?
I don't know what happens to that stuff. You know, there's
right.
a lot of cold cases get cracked if they preserve it correctly, you know.
Right. Okay. So now, another true crime, Chris Watts.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one because of the kids that were killed in that, you know. Frederick, Colorado, that was August 13th, 2018.
Yes.
I'm sure most people now have seen most of the documentation on that.
On the Netflix, if I'm correct.
Netflix, and even before that, the other specials, but Netflix was a good one. But because they showed a lot of footage we didn't see, you're right. Basically, you got a guy who you look at, he's got this great existence, you know, wife, 2 kids, good job.
Nice house.
Big house, right? And, you know, you're never really a murderer, I guess, until you are, right? You know, and so at first, her friend drops her off at the house at, I think, at 1:47 in the morning. There's Ring doorbell footage of her coming home from her trip to Arizona. Her and her friend took a trip. So you see Shanann walking into the home. Okay, so you fast forward to the next morning. You've got the footage that the neighbor has next door, right? And you can see Chris backs his truck up just so you don't really see what he's loading. Right, he tried to say he was loading tools and whatever, gas cans, whatever, for work. But initially, Shanann's friend Nicole was trying to get a hold of her the next morning. This is how it all unraveled. She's like trying to call her, because I think she was 15 weeks pregnant too, by the way.
Wow.
So she's calling her, no answer. And she knows she has an appointment with the doctor in the morning. No answer. Comes by the house. No one's answering the door. Calls up Chris, like, hey, where's she at? Oh, she's on a play date. She took the girls. He wasn't too worried. So Nicole's trying to get into the house. You can't get into the house. You lock it from the front door on the inside. And that was another red flag, you know. So Chris finally comes home, talks to the police. They check the house. And he starts giving away a little bit here and there, not much. Just, we had an emotional discussion in the morning at about 5, or maybe it was like 4:48 in the morning. And then I'm sure you've seen his interview on the news when he's standing in the driveway and he's just kind of going, yeah, where they at, type of thing.
Yeah.
So something wasn't right, you know. And in my mind, when I remember first seeing that, I'm like, okay, unfortunately, they're going to look to the husband first. That's just the way it is.
It's always going to be like that.
That's just the way it is. I know some people don't think it's right, but that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So he's not acting the way I would act. I would think I would act.
Of course.
You know, I've never been in that situation. Hopefully I never will. So they finally bring him down. It's a couple days later. I mean, he got to go spend the night at his friend's house. He didn't go in right away. And so I watched all the interrogation inside the room. And they got him just, you know, how come you're not distraught? How do you not know where they're at? What do you mean they went on a play date? What's going on? You know, so finally he cracks. He asks for his dad to come in there with him into the room. And when the two detectives leave, he tells his dad that he makes up a lie. He said that on the monitor he saw that one of the kids was dead and that the wife was strangling the other one. So he ran and strangled her, killed her. So if you believe that story, then that means you believe when he was loading his truck up that he loaded up 3 bodies, the wife and the 2 kids. Now when you break down what he admitted to later on in prison, they went back and did an audio interview. According to him, they got into a fight, an argument up in the bedroom. And she said, you're not going to see the kids. And so that turned into him strangling her. Strangles her. One of the girls comes in the room, one of the daughters, hey, what's going on with mommy? Oh, she's sick. Just go. He wraps her in this sheet, brings her down the stairs, loads her into the truck. Now, according to what he said, the 2 daughters, I think one was 3, one was 4, something like that, Bella and Cece, they ride in the back of the truck with their dead mom 45 minutes to his job, according to what he said, you know.
In the back?
Well, in the cab, in the back seat. Right. She's on the mom is on the floor, and the 2 girls are buckled in the seat, and they're just kind of sitting. So he gets to his job at Anadarko, which was like an oil processing plant. That's where he worked. He gets there. It's a 45-minute drive. And this is where it gets tough. You know what I mean? This is where even for him, you know, the prick that he is, he describes. You want me to say how it went down?
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
I don't know if he takes the wife out first to the dirt because he just buries her in a shallow grave. He comes back to the truck and he strangles his I believe the youngest daughter, and then takes her up this stairway. There's these 2 drums, large oil drums that have an 8-inch opening, right? Comes back to the truck where his other daughter's alive, and the other daughter's like, are you going to do to me what you did to her? And it's like, yo.
Yeah.
He puts, I think he said it was a Yankee blanket, puts it over her, strangles her, takes her up this stairway. So now there's 2 separate drums. People familiar with the case, you probably saw it on the documentary. Survey 319 is the name of the station he was at. He shoves each daughter through the 8-inch hole. One of them left a tuft of hair on the rim because it's so, I mean, it's 8 inches, you know, in circumference. And he shoves each one down. And he said he can tell how much oil was in there when he heard the body hit on each one of them. You can tell how much was in there. Shoves them down there, goes and finishes up burying the wife. Co-workers end up rolling up, and they notice his truck's parked not usually where it is. He's wearing different attire than what he usually does, you know. And he just kind of acts normal when they roll up. And so when they pinpoint him inside of the investigation room, they send a drone over Survey 319 to get an aerial shot of the premises, and they ask him just where they at, and he points it out. And that's where they find, they find the sheet, because the cops notice there's a sheet missing from their bed, doesn't complete the set.
Right.
And that's where we're at,
And the thing is that the documentary that I saw on Netflix, that he walks into the house, he shakes the police officer's hand, he calls the wife, babe, where are you? Call me back. He tries to play it off like that. When I saw that, I was like, this is just me. I hadn't even seen the full documentary, but I was saying to myself, that guy's bullshitting.
Sure.
Okay. And then he picks up the ring. He's like, look, maybe she left me or something to that, effect. And that's what he was saying. Maybe she left me and, just call me. Let's work things out or whatever.
He had a girl on the side.
Yeah.
Too, by the way.
See, and that's my thing, that I've seen several of these like murder cases where, like that one guy, I forgot where he's from. He killed his wife with child to be with another female. I think it was up north that where it took place.
Well, it was Lacey Peterson.
That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same
Peterson, right? Yep.
Same shit. And here's my thing. Look, you don't want to be with your girl? Leave.
Sure.
That's it. You don't got to take her out. You got to take out those kids. Has nothing to do with the children. And, here's my thing. Not only do I have children, but I have grandbabies. I will give my life for my kids and for my grandbabies. But when I hear, a dude like that taking out his own kids and his own kids telling him, are you going to do to me what you did to her? And still do it anyways. How do you turn off your heart, Mm-hmm. But obviously he did it.
He did it. He called their school in the morning saying that they're not going to be going there anymore and they're moving. He called a realtor. Based on everything I saw, even on the Netflix doc, it appeared to me that he really cared for the kids. So whether or not it was a front or not, or something just happened that night, we'll never know.
Right.
I know for me, there was a time where my son, I couldn't find him for about 4 seconds. He was old enough to go to the backyard real quick, and I didn't know.
Right.
Seriously, it couldn't have been more than 10 seconds. It was under 10. And I just freaked, man. And this guy, I don't know where the pregnant wife is.
Yeah.
And the 2 daughters. And he's like, hey, where you at? Something's not right there.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And I mean, like I said, even with my grandbabies, we'll go to the beach and they'll start running towards the water, and I freak out. You run and go get them. If something happens to your daughter or something, you're not going to be like, oh, well, I don't know, she usually's home. No, you're going to be freaking out.
Sure. And
if the cops are pretty much looking at you, an innocent man would say, look, what do you want me to do? You want me to go to the police station with you, or what? You comply? You don't. Girl, where are you? No, because you wanna pretty much. It's like you said. They're always gonna look at the husband or the father or whatever. They're always gonna look at that one person. But I don't know. That one really, really, really bothered me. I'll tell you another one that's pretty much probably off the subject. The one that just happened with Gabriel Fernandez, I believe, or Hernandez. His parents, the stepdad, beat him, killed him.
Yeah, I don't know the details on. I know the.
Yeah, I believe it was Gabriel Hernandez, that was honestly, I think it was like a 5 or 6 part docuseries on Netflix. Okay, I couldn't watch it. I had to keep stopping it because it was, excuse my language, but it kept fucking me up. It really, really kept bothering me when they asked the brother, your dad, how would he hold him up? He goes, oh, he would pick him up, from his neck. And he was like, when they were asking the little boy, and he said, like, how high? And he goes, like, show me on the wall. And he would point all the way up high. He goes, and how would he hold him? He goes, and he would hold him like this. He goes, and then he would just drop him. So I had to keep turning it off because it kept bothering me, like really, really bothering me. So I don't understand how this guy even if the babies are dead, to even shove them down an 8-inch,
Right. So, yeah, it's hard to watch, man.
Yeah.
Some of those things I won't watch. That one I did, but then you got the ones that this one's not that popular. Springfield 3. It's not a massive case. The Springfield 3 in Springfield, Missouri, 1992, kind of resonates with me because that's when I graduated. Well, these two girls graduated high school, Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall, and they go out to a few parties. Then the two girls go to Susie's house with where her mom was, Sherry. So now it's the two girls and mom hanging out at the house, right? Never seen again, ever. And that happened in 92.
That's it?
Done. Just disappeared, just vanished. When they got there, when the family members got there, the porch light was shattered. The girls' purses were lined up next to each other. One of the girls' cars was parked different than where she usually parks it. But that's all we have. Somebody called and left a obscene phone call on the answer machine, but the people there erased it, just thinking, they're going to be home any second. The people there also cleaned the house up, just thinking, they're going to be back. So whatever potential DNA evidence that was there, if any, was gone. And that's it, done. Just disappeared. 3 grown-ups.
Wow.
It's bizarre, man,
1992.
Yeah,
Okay.
June 7.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Casey Anthony.
Yeah, that's another rough one, Yeah. I coincidentally just went out there in June of this year and checked it out. I was there doing some other things. We went to Disney World and stuff, but I snuck away to go check out the crime scene, check out the neighborhood. I like to do that just to get a kind of feel of what I think maybe happened. But here you got Casey Anthony. Her daughter was missing for 30 days before it was reported. I know it's been said 31 days, but it's really 30 days. So the last time Kaylee and Casey were seen by the dad, George Anthony, was June 16th at about 1 o'clock, leaving the house. Okay. That night on June 16th, Casey is on surveillance or footage from some kind of Blockbuster video with her boyfriend, right?
Okay.
So the baby's gone at that point. That's about a 6-7 hour window. And see, that's where I think whatever happened.
Okay.
In that 6 hour window. The dump of Kaylee's body, I don't think happened there because we'll get to that in a second, because of the smell in the trunk wasn't kicking in till later on. But so what we do know is that Casey Anthony left the house, her parents' house, with the baby June 16th. And from that point on, she had lie after lie to her mom because the mom wanted to see the grandbaby. We'll call her, hey, bring her by. Oh, we're doing this. We're going to Jacksonville. We're going. One of my boyfriends are going to his house. I can't bring her over at this point. And there was a breaking point for the mom. So she started posting shit. The mom did with Kaylee's grandmother on MySpace at the time. Hey, I can't see my grandbaby. She was putting her business out there.
Right.
14 days later, after she was last seen leaving the house, the car that Casey was driving was found in front of an Ascot. It's like a check cashing place, I think. It was found abandoned there. And then from there it was towed to a tow yard. And by the time George Anthony got to the car, which was 30 days, something like that, 30, 28, 29 days, got to the car. As soon as he approached it, I'm sure you heard the story, you could smell. He was a former police officer. Smelled like death in the trunk. Not trash, not a dead animal.
Right.
Death, a human being death. He takes the car home, in which point the mom finds where Casey is, goes and finds her in an apartment, gets her in the car. They drive back to the house. That's where the 911 calls come in. I want to have my daughter arrested. I don't know where my grandbaby is. She's been stealing from me. The car smells like death. The trunk, it smells like a dead body was in the back, So That's where the lies started to really sprout. You know, of course, she was lying to the police right off the rip.
Right.
She said that Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez was her nanny, Zanny the nanny. She dropped the baby off with the nanny 30 days ago. Who does that? You know what I mean? Takes the police to 3 different buildings saying that this is where I dropped her off or this is where her former apartment was. And her lies were elaborate, you know? If I was lying about you, I would say, yeah, Tony, and he lives here, and he drives that. She would just extend the layers of the lies. It's kind of a red flag, you know?
Right, right.
So, anyways, the baby's been gone all this time. Casey Anthony's arrested for check fraud. She was stealing from her friends. But to cover up the scent in the trunk, she made it known twice to her friend, hey, I think I hit a squirrel today, you know, a few weeks before. And then, hey, my trunk stinks. And just to kind of lay the scene.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? So, in August of that year, there was a meter reader named Roy Crunk.
Mm-hmm.
His story is he went to take a leak in this swamp down the street from the Anthony house, and he sees something, a bag, something like that. So he doesn't call the police right away. I think he ends up calling either that night. I think it was that night because a police officer was dispatched out there and couldn't find anything. So he called again the next day. They were like, hey, meet the officer out there in the daytime. They go out there together in the daytime. They don't find anything, right? And according to Roy Crunk, he said the officer was kind of being a prick, you know. So that was in August, right?
Right.
So 4 months later, here comes Roy Crunk again. And this is where it kind of messed things up, you know, for the prosecution. Roy Crunk is in the same spot again, 4 months later, and finds the skull, you know, and finds everything there.
Wow.
The theory is maybe, I don't think so. Did he take the bag home? I seriously doubt any of this, but this is what the defense used. Roy Crunk did something there, took the body home. Again, I don't believe that. I just think it's kind of weird for him to go call twice. And they ended up finding the skull and then her bones scattered apart. Because when you start to deteriorate and you know, decompose,
yes,
your ligaments and everything start detaching and smaller things start coming off where eventually leave your torso.
Yes.
And they were able to track that, hey, the body was moved a few feet by an animal because there's some smaller things here and the torso's here. They retrieved most of the bones to Kaylee. I think they couldn't find 3 or 4 of them, like little ones for the hand, stuff like that. And they were able to trace garments, bags, duct tape back to the house, you know, from the house.
Right.
Now, the one thing that didn't fall off was her jaw because that had a piece of duct tape attached over it. Why do you put duct tape over a child's mouth? I don't know. You know, I don't think anything good for anything good. So, you know, that was a big thing in the case there with the duct tape. The duct tape was traced back to the house. So they found a Gatorade bottle with traces of chlorophyll in it. Or chloroform, sorry, and that's a theory. Maybe she tried to put her to sleep, didn't work out. And within those 30 days, Casey was out partying and hanging out without her baby, telling her friends, oh, the baby's with the babysitter, you know. So, of course, she got off.
Really?
Yeah, she was acquitted. And I think she was acquitted because the prosecution tried to get her for, you know, murder 1.
Okay.
How you did it, which you can't really do that if all you have is scattered bones.
Right, right.
In my opinion, that's probably why she got off. You know?
If I were to ask you, like, your opinion, like, what do you think happened, or possibly even what was the motive for her killing, you know, her?
Yeah. Motive-wise, I think it's like another Chris Watts in a sense of you turn something off and something else is turned on.
Okay.
So in my opinion, what I think Casey probably did was maybe try to put the girl to sleep just for the night. Something went wrong and maybe she didn't wake up.
Yeah.
And I think she kept the body in the trunk for X amount of days until it started to smell. And for whatever reason, decided to dump her down the street. It's a quarter mile from her house. So you step out of her house and drive down the street the road dead ends into Suburban Drive. So at the intersection of Hope Spring Drive and Suburban Drive, there's like a marsh, a swamp. And they found the remains about 17 feet from the road. Why put it there? I don't know. Maybe because of the animal activity there, that maybe she hoped, you know.
Wow.
But, yeah, I mean, she's out. I mean, she's out partying. She just got popped a couple months ago. No, well, not popped, but she's on body cam from a police officer. She got into some dispute at a bar. So according to her, she's dating some deputy, right?
Oh, wow.
So this ex-girlfriend of the deputy comes into this bar and throws a drink on her. And so she made the news. So, but, you know, that's another thing. We'll never know how. We do know she borrowed a shovel from her neighbor and backed her own car into her garage, like Chris Watts, but she backed it all the way in. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why? You know, I want to touch on something because I want to encourage you guys to go look at our episode when I was with Mike Santana's podcast. Make sure you guys, once again, follow him on his Instagram. On his bio, it takes you directly to his YouTube link. I believe you have two options there, but go to the YouTube and subscribe, okay? But something we talked about that I thought was very intriguing. We have a couple of more minutes, and it was something about the Jonbenet Ramsey.
Yeah.
I know we covered it, but if you can kind of just, for those that possibly may not have heard your podcast, maybe we could touch on it here, and then eventually they can go back and watch your podcast. So.
Yeah, Jonbenet Ramsey, another case out of Colorado, Boulder, Colorado. Forgive me, I don't recall the exact date on that. I do know it was Christmas Eve. I want to say 04. I could be wrong. But anyway, Jonbenet Ramsey, 6-year-old girl, was found dead in the basement of this large home. A ransom note was found.
Right.
I think it was 3 pages. Long-ass ransom note.
Yeah.
And the parents and the people on their side go with what they call the intruder theory. So the family went to a Christmas party that night. So in order to believe the intruder theory, you'd have to believe that the intruder waited in the house, in an empty house, waited for everyone to go to sleep, killed Jonbenet, put her downstairs, for whatever reason wrote a ransom letter demanding money for someone alive, you know, and wrote it, by the way, on a pad that was in a house with a pen that was in a house. And I would think someone that's going to do that would come in with a ransom note already written, because you kind of want to get out of there, I would think.
Exactly.
So they found her downstairs, but they didn't find her at first. The body was down there for more than a few hours, you know, and they had a bunch of friends and family come over. I mean, it was, I don't want to criticize anyone in that, because, you know, I don't ever want to be in that situation, but there were things that did go wrong, investigation-wise, and even with family and friends cleaning things up.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't find the body at first. And the first officer that arrived, the 911 call, the mom called the 911 to say, hey, we can't find her. First officer comes to the house. I want to say it's like 5 in the morning. And the first thing he notices is that the mom has the same outfit, because she even said it, but she has the same outfit she had on the night before. As a police officer, you're like, okay, she didn't go to sleep. Right. She didn't go to sleep last night. Her makeup's done, hair's done. So that's one, you know, a mental note there. Another mental note from an officer is that the mom, when she was crying, was peering through her fingers as the officer came up the stairs, just to kind of see what he found, or see. This is according to reports, you know.
Wow.
So the dad ends up finding Jonbenet's body downstairs in this wine cellar. And, you know, when they interviewed the housekeeper about it, she goes, wow, you really have to know that house to know where that room is. In other words, how would an intruder really know to go 3 floors down, you know, go to the basement
and find that one room?
Yeah, find her there. So, and that's another case where you were talking about earlier, how if that happened to you, you'd want to be with the police, right?
Exactly.
And these people weren't. These people went on, the parents went on, I think, CNN first, Larry King, and talked. I mean, they were just fighting with the cops. They didn't want to sit with him and talk about what happened.
I mean, you would think like any normal person would like, what happened? Do your fucking job. This happened to my daughter.
Right.
You know, how can I help? I'm here. You know, you want to be instrumental in finding what happened, you know, finding out what happened instead of like, nah, fuck the police. Larry King's calling.
Yep. And she had a couple of wounds. See, here's the thing, man. She had a big hole in the back of her head, or actually the top rear, a gash, right? Like she was hit with something. But the stage job was the garrote that was around her neck. Like someone put a rope around her neck and pulled from behind to choke her out.
Right.
All that was made from the mother's paintbrush set and her arts and crafts downstairs. It wasn't brought in. It was made down there, you know. So a theory is that was a stage setup, that the initial kill would have been the hole in the head from whatever instrument or whatever happened. They also said that she did not eat pineapple, right? She was asleep when she came home. We put her to bed. Autopsy reports show she had pineapple in her stomach. Downstairs on the kitchen table is a bowl of pineapple with fingerprints from her brother and her mom on the spoon. Now that right there, hey, they live there, so that I can look over.
Right.
But somebody fed her pineapple unless she snuck down and ate it herself, you know, at 6, maybe.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, that's another one. I guess we'll never know because the mom died. The dad's still alive.
And here's the thing. So the intruder goes in.
Right.
He takes a pad and a pen that was already there in the house, writes a ransom, finds a room that only if you live there you could find it, then takes, if you will, materials from there to choke her out. So to me, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't add up. You're right. If you're going to kill her, why are you demanding money? And if you're demanding money, why are you only demanding $118,000?
And it's funny, 118, not 120, not 130, 118. That would be like me robbing you and say, give me $1.55.
Sure. And 118 was what the father's work bonus was. So who knows that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, my estimation, you know, I read a few books on it, one of them from the lead detective. And he kind of pinpoints what he thinks happened, and I kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
He thinks the mom and the daughter got into something, presumably over bedwetting.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened. Something got escalated. The injury to her head, and from there you got to come up with all these lies. And then I think that her husband just had her back. I don't think her husband was near what happened. I think the husband had her back. I don't buy the intruder theory. For me,
no. It just, to me, just doesn't add up. I'm not going to break into somebody's house, and you know what? I hope they have a pad and a pin.
Sure.
You know, and I'm going to find a room that I'm not supposed to know about, and then I'm going to choke her out with material that's already there.
Doesn't add up to me, right?
Yeah,
You're right.
it just doesn't. And then the right amount, I want 118,000.
Right.
Not 119, not 120, 18,000. Like it just.
Correct. Yeah, it's just bizarre. It's another bizarre one, man.
Okay, you guys, we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute intermission break. We're going to come right back, but warm up some food or get yourself something cool to drink. We want to thank everybody for tuning in once again to Freaky Tales Podcast, episode 32 on the first Friday of October. But we'll be back in 5 minutes. So make sure you call someone and share this and let them know that we are live on Freaky Tales Podcast with Mike Santana. Make sure you guys follow him on Instagram. Go on his bio and subscribe to his YouTube. Let's get his subscribers up, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. We'll be taking some calls as well. Welcome back, everyone, to Freaky Tales Podcast on this first Friday of October 2021, episode 32. And once again, I want to thank everybody that's tuned in, everybody who's logged in, everybody who's chatting, everybody who's not chatting, everybody who's liked, everybody who's subscribed, everybody who shared, everybody who disliked. It doesn't matter. You guys are still watching. So other than that, we're just going to go ahead and jump right back into it with Mike Santana. Mike, I've noticed that your Instagram page, if I'm correct, says horror?
Horror 2S.
Okay, horror 2S. Now, we talked about murder, and we'll get back into that. Crime stories. But I want to know, what got you intrigued into horror movies?
Just as a kid, watching them with my dad mostly. You know, Halloween's, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And I just kind of gravitated towards that dark type of film, you know, dark art and whatever you want to call it, gore. I mean, I like all types of movies, but horror is right up.
Now, I noticed you're wearing a Welcome to Haddonfield, Illinois hat. What is it about Michael Myers? Because that's my guy. I know that's your guy too.
Right.
But what was it about him that intrigued you so much that you collect so many Michael Myers masks?
Well, for me, first of all, it's the nostalgia of it. And it brings me back to when I was younger, what I first was introduced to, I think. And past that, it's the silence of him. Okay. The nothingness of him and the damage he inflicts without saying a word. Even the mask he wears is lifeless. Yeah. You know, but there's something behind it that kind of drives it. And for me, I just gravitate towards that.
Do you consider, when it comes to that movie, do you look at it as, because it's part 1 and part 2, and then there's the Season of the Witch, which is part 3, which is, to me, which is stupid. Okay.
Right.
I don't even keep that in my collection, just to let you guys know. But here we have part 1 and part 2. They're supposed to be the same night, correct?
Correct.
To me, they both got the same feel, so I consider them one, okay, because it's the same night. Then we have the new one that just came out. Well, not the one that's going to come out, but the one that just came out with maybe last year or year before. Jamie Lee Curtis. That was to be a continuance of those two.
No, of the first one.
Right. Well, I guess what I mean by the first one, so not part 2 as well?
No.
Really?
Right.
So part 2 was pretty much excluded.
That's one of the big gripes, yeah. So it's a different reality. Well, not to cut you off. Did you
No.
So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then the Rob Zombies, right? So then you switch realities from the Halloween 2018 one, switch realities from the second one. Shout out to part 2. This is part 2, you know, one of my favorites. I think it rivals the first one, but that's another conversation.
Me too.
So I've actually had a couple friends that say 1 and 2 go hand in hand as one movie as well.
That's what I thought.
Right. And that's a great point, you know, because I think it does. But when you're talking about the newer ones, you're going from the original 1978, forget about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. You jump right to Halloween 2018, and people have their gripes with it. People love it. So essentially, the one that just came out a few years ago would really be Halloween 2, depending on which reality. You know, they call it Halloween 2018. Then you got the one coming out this month, which is part 2 of that last one in 2018. So it'll go 1, 2 is 2018. The one coming out this month will be 3, and one more 4. You know, so.
You looking a dumb question, but are you looking forward to this new one?
I am. I had huge issues with the one in 2018.
Okay.
But it is part of the family, so I'll have my gripes with it.
And what was that about? I mean, as far as your gripes
with
the 2018,
I think the misplaced humor for me was huge. That was one of the things. The Dr. Sartain character, you know, stabbing Hawkins. The mask, I thought they did well, but again, for me, the misplaced humor. I had a lot of issues with the way Laurie Strode was. She was very Sarah Connor, Terminator 2-ish, and I think we've seen that already. No disrespect to the filmmakers or the actors. I know it's a lot of work. Much love to you on that. But just for me, the way I received it, that's what I had issues with. And I think the Halloween 2018 essentially was already done with H2O in 1998, where it jumped from 3, 4, 5, and 6, and you're back to Laurie Strode when she's in California working at that school. She changed her name. So, Halloween H2O, which I had my problems with, but I really like the story on that one. But again, Halloween 2018, though I had my issues with it, I still will watch it, and it's still part of the family. But I had some gripes, Do you have any type of insights on this new one, even though it's, probably about a year or more than a year old, because it should have came out last year? Yeah,
so
it's going to come out, I think, next week or something like that? Yeah. No, I'm just going to base it on the trailer. Now, the trailer for the new one, there's a lot of kills from what I can see, so hopefully they didn't blow their load on the trailer, because they showed him take out the firemen, took out a few other people in houses. Trailer looks good, in my opinion, and I don't have any insight on it. Matter of fact, any type of spoiler that I see, I just scroll up. I don't want to see anything. I want to be surprised on it. But again, I'll be there. I'm not going to be there opening night or anything like that. I'm going to kind of wait. I may even check it out at home first on Peacock, and then go to the theater and see it.
Okay. But I do want to go to the theater and see it. I don't go to the theaters much, but for certain movies like that, I will go see.
Oh, definitely.
Let's get to really quick the Rob Zombie ones. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's 2 of them. Did you watch them both?
Yes.
Okay. I like the first one. Excuse me. I like the first one. Second one, in my opinion, was bullshit, but that's just my opinion. I like the first one, but I'll be real with you. I could have done without him. I just like the Michael Myers, the originals.
Yeah.
Give us your opinions on those.
So with Rob Zombies, I share that same sentiment. The second one, I didn't care for. The first one, the big gripe there is the backstory with Michael. A lot of people felt we don't need to see that. And I agree. It's scarier when you don't know what drives him, in my opinion.
Right.
Having said that, that came out in 2007. It was a time where I needed another Halloween.
Of course.
I needed a Michael Myers. I needed to see him kind of do his thing. So I gravitated towards that one, though I had a couple of gripes with it. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the movie. There's a 4-hour making of that I watch a lot. I'll just pop in the disc. It's 4 hours of how they made it, where they're at, on location. So,
But that's because I believe, at least in my opinion, you like that kind of stuff because you yourself are a director.
Right.
See, I watch a lot of makings of. I could be cooking something, making myself a sandwich, and then just watch it. Oh, that's how they did it. Oh, that's how they did it. I get that, But you said you had some things that you didn't like about the first Rob Zombie, because I do get people on my Freaky Tales podcast Instagram page that I'll watch any Rob Zombie Halloween movie, and I'm like, calm down, pal. That's just my opinion. I thought the second one was terrible. The first one I really liked.
Yeah, the first one, the gore, I thought the mask, they got it right. And that's, for me, I'm a big guy on the mask. You know what I mean? Get the mask right.
Right.
Part 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they got it wrong.
Terrible.
You know what I mean?
Terrible.
And I don't know how you do that. Now, maybe it's a good thing they got it wrong because we appreciate the other ones more because of it. But I felt Zombie got it right with at least the first one. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I thought the kill scenes were dope. Zombies kill scenes, bloody, dark shots, dark corridors, hallways. But, again, the backstory for me was, and it was kind of grimy, and that's the way he does his thing.
Right.
So,
out of all the movies, which one do you think had the best mask? I'll give you mine first.
Go ahead.
Part 2.
Okay. So, Part 2 is my shit. Yeah, you love the Warlock one, right?
Of course, the Warlock one.
So, to me, 1 and 2 now, it's been said, even by Deborah Hill, that's the same mask, but just flattened and kind of sitting around in different shape on Dick Warlock's face than it was on Nick Castle's. It's been said, whether or not it is, when you go to purchase it or whatever, it's a different mold. So essentially they're different. They're a different look. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So That's a tough one, man. I love the Warlock one.
Me too.
I mean,
Me too.
I will say this: the second one scared me more. It was more terrifying to me. The first one's dope. The first mask is dope, but so was the second one. You know,
The only thing that kind of bothered me a little bit about the second one was this.
okay,
And it's a little tiny bother, okay, is that you look at the first one and it almost seemed like that shit went late into the night when in part 2, there's still kids outside trick-or-treating.
you didn't like that.
Because I just thought like in part 1, it almost ended like if it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like it to me just felt like it ended late.
Oh yeah, you're right. There was some kids. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, you know, it almost seemed like part 1 when he's chasing her down the street and blah, blah, blah. And then homeboy Loomis.
Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, blasts his ass and he falls over. He leaves. The movie pretty much ends. To me, that was like around 12, 1, 2, somewhere around in the morning. Part 2, when it continues, he gets up and he starts walking, just kids start out to trick-or-treating.
Yeah, that's true.
So it almost made it seem like we were back to 9 o'clock. That was the only thing that bothered me. But other than that, I loved it.
Okay. There's a couple things with 2 that bother me. If you watch the beginning of 2, next time you watch it, the beginning of 2 picks up at the ending of 1.
Yes.
So as you watch the beginning of 2, when he gets shot off the balcony, you can clearly see he's on a platform, probably about 3 feet up, like a stage. And he's just above the railings.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And then he falls down. And then the shot of him laying after he's been shot is more of a lawn, where the first one was more dirt, or vice versa, one of the two, but clearly different settings.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And in my opinion, you got to get that right.
You have to. Yeah, because people like us spot that crap out.
Yeah, you got to get that right, especially when it comes to continuity with those movies. But again, I still love them. I love the hospital setting, the dark corridors.
Right.
Man.
You know, yesterday I was watching, just because it was on TV, it was a Jason movie. I've never really been too much of a fan of Jason movies.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's spooky, it's horror, it's cool. I'll watch it every once in a while, but I cannot sit here and say, as much as I am maybe a Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, Jason is probably my last one. But let me tell you what I don't like about a lot of Jason movies and a lot of Freddy Krueger movies.
Okay.
It almost seems like every time a couple's boning or having sex, that guy walks in and kills them.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, like if you want to live, don't have sex.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll be safe. But last night it was so predictable. There was a guy on top of a girl, and then he walks in and stabs them both. And I'm like,
Stabs, goes right through him?
Goes right through him.
Must have been watching 2.
Probably
part 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I watch Leprechaun over some of the Jason ones. But I seen them all. But there's something about Jason that just, to me, it's like a dud. It doesn't scare me like a Michael Myers.
Right. It's a different vibe.
Yes.
You know.
I mean, what's your take on Jason movies?
Well, comparing Jason to Michael Myers to me doesn't, you really can't equate it, because though Michael Myers has been shot a bunch of times and he's still surviving, to me, Michael is still human, where Jason is supernatural. Like his skin and his cells regenerate and all kinds of crap. So Jason, I rock with Jason. Not like I would with Michael.
Right.
You know, I rock with especially the earlier Friday the 13th, 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Even 4. I'll rock with them, you know. But Freddy versus Jason, that movie, that's a fun ride.
I like that one.
That's a fun ride. But Jason, yeah, I mean, I never really watched any Chucky movies, so I rock with Friday the 13th before I would like Chucky, even Freddy, you know.
They're coming out with a new series of Chucky. I believe it's on FX and on Sci-Fi, if I'm correct.
Looks pretty crazy. Huh?
Yeah, I saw the trailer yesterday. It looked pretty damn hilarious.
Right.
You know, I like Chucky. I'm not too much of a fan of Leprechaun, though I've seen him. But I'm not too much of a fan of Leprechaun. I'd rather take Chucky over Leprechaun.
Okay.
But there's another one. The Freddy Kruegers are cool, but the last one they made with Freddy Krueger, this dude sounded like he was talking with a lisp. I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was terrible.
The reboot. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I didn't really care too much for that one. Do you have any insights on possibly are they going to be coming out we know Michael Myers coming out. We know we got the series of Chucky. Anything on Jason or anything on Freddy that you may know?
Not Freddy, but they keep talking about a Jason, another Friday the 13th, because the reboot they did in 2009 with Derek Mears as Jason Voorhees, I thought that was damn good, but they never revisited that. You know.
On 2009, I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it was like a reboot. He had like a kind of like a crossbow or something, and he was at the lake, and he was using the land, and he was using electricity and shit like that. So that was the gripe there from people. But
okay. The last one I seen with Jason was Freddy versus Jason.
Okay.
That was it. What about movies like? Do you get intrigued with movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream?
They're fun. Scream is fun for me.
Yeah.
I rock with those, especially part 4, man. I like 4.
Why part 4?
I think because they're all older and some more relatable, you know?
They're all good. They're all good. I tried watching I Know What You Did Last Summer. I thought they were cool. They were just entertaining. Right. That was it. Yeah. Any other movies that are intriguing that possibly you could recommend to our viewers?
Well, The Exorcist, and we talked in depth about that. And that's all. I'm always going to ride with that one.
Right.
You know, and if you haven't seen that, you know, definitely put it on your list.
You know, okay. What do you think, Mike, when this generation sees it, they kind of laugh at it and say, that was stupid, it wasn't even scary?
Because of what they're used to now, effects-wise and kind of cheesy CGI now.
Yeah.
Back then, you know, that hit us hard, you know. Really,
really hard. I remember I said that movie was about 10 to 20 years ahead of its time. You said it was about 50 years.
Yeah, it's way ahead, I think.
Okay. Now imagine the parts that they cut out. That one part where she's walking backwards down the steps.
Right.
They cut that out. Okay.
Right, that's wild.
Can you imagine if they would have left it on back then? Mm-hmm. How much even more terrifying. I mean, and then the director to be able to say, you know, let me go ahead and when she walks back down the...
Yeah.
I think to myself, like, what the hell was going through your mind?
What are you thinking? Where does that come from? You know?
Exactly.
Right.
I don't know, you know, and then like some of the lines, okay, just your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Sure.
That sounds cool. Let me go ahead and write that in and I'll have her say it.
Yeah. Right.
You know.
Bizarre shit.
Man. Yeah. Then right here,
right.
Look, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just what's in the movie. Right here, she's going to stab herself, you know, with the cross. Mm-hmm. And she's going to look at the priest and say, fuck me. Now, I need you to say that, you know, Linda Blair. And how old was she at the time?
12, 13, something like that. Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's like, see, that's what made it so crazy, so out there, so demonic for me as a kid, because I believe it came out in 73.
Was it 73? Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was 73. I was born in 68, so I was 5.
Oh, man.
And being traumatized by this shit. You know, and then we talked about the voice. Maybe you could just recap a little bit about how the director wanted to come up with the voice for The Exorcist.
Yeah, the voice in the trailer for the promo for when you came over, it kind of explains that.
Yes.
I forgot the actress's name.
Make sure you guys go check out the episode that I did with him at his podcast. Okay, make sure you guys, it's really, really interesting. We go a little bit more in depth into that. But right now, he just kind of give a quick recap so that you guys can go tune in to his podcast. Yeah,
so the voice was, according to the director, William Friedkin, he didn't necessarily want a male voice or a female voice. He wanted a twist, a mesh of both. And if you listen to the demon's voice, it sounds like a man and a woman to me mixed in. So the actress, slipping my mind right now, that he used, would strap herself to a chair and get on whiskey, get on, you know, eggs, crack open eggs, chain smoke, to pull this voice out of her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she had a priest or multiple priests on standby because she was religious. And that's how they pulled the demon voice. So they would emulate, they'd have, you know, Reagan say her lines, Linda Blair, and then they would have the actress emulate that, you know, on whiskey and raw eggs, chain smoking and stuff, and that's where she pulled it. And it's very creepy. It brings out a lot of evil, man, from her.
No, it does. It does. I mean, just to think about it, if I'm correct, she had herself tied to a chair?
Yeah, they said she was strapped somehow.
Okay, she was strapped somehow. Mm-hmm. And what was she, eating these eggs or something? Or
yeah, she was either cracking them herself or maybe they were put in a cup for her or something along those lines, you know?
She would get buzzed on whiskey, smoke some cigarettes, have some priests, and then all of a sudden, whatever the hell she did.
Right. We are legion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And true crime relatable, you know what happened to her son, right? That actress. Her son killed his whole family.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, her son, see, it slips my mind her name right now, but it's all on the podcast. I believe it was in Mississippi, and I cover that as well. He was some kind of banker, something like that. And what he was doing is, allegedly, is moving funds around where he shouldn't have been moving funds, right?
Yeah.
And he was beefing with his mom, the actress who played, Reagan, or played the demon. And he drives down to this Halloween store. And once everything boiled over, he buys a mask, puts on the mask at home, goes upstairs, kills his 2 daughters, kills his wife, kills himself, and used 2 guns, I believe. But, there's photos of it. There's photos of the mask he used. You know what I mean? And he wrote a letter. I don't know if the letter was left that day, but he wrote a letter talking mess to his mom, because they were beefing somehow. But that relates right back to true crime. The house still stands. It was a nice house. It was on the corner. But crazy, man.
And her son, obviously, the mom is the one who made the voices.
Correct.
Shit. Like, when you think about that, I'm like, fuck, did she conjure something up?
She very well could have.
Okay. I know we talked a little bit about this. Well, the new one coming out, is it done? Do you know?
Yeah, it's done. It's ready for release. I think it's already been screened overseas and everything. Are we talking
the new Exorcist?
Oh, no, my bad. I thought we were talking. No, The Exorcist, it's not done, but they have, I guess, a premise and a story. The mom is supposed to be in it somewhere along the line.
The mom
from the original.
Oh, she's still alive?
Yeah. So from what I read, the new family is going to have some kind of possession issues, and they reach out to Reagan's mom for some kind of advice. This is just what I've read. I don't know if Linda Blair's in it yet. I haven't read that. I haven't found that out. But yeah, the mom's still alive. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but Blumhouse is behind it, so it should be pretty good.
Yeah. What did you think of The Heretic and all these other ones?
See, I didn't see all of the sequels. The ones I did see, I was young, so I couldn't even call it. Right. I do need to sit and watch. Was it 4 of them, right, total?
I believe so.
2, 4, yeah. So I need to sit and watch those, but I haven't.
Yeah, I tried to watch a couple of them, and I think one of the last one where the priest is still alive, but he's demon possessed. The one that jumped out the window, he reappears. It was scary, but I don't think it had anything to do with the first one.
Okay.
So, from what I understand, this new Exorcist is going to continue from the first one and skip the other ones.
That's what it's going to be a jump. That's what I took from the article anyway. Just a jump. It doesn't necessarily omit those, but those stories from the sequels aren't going to be intertwined. From what I read now, you know what I mean? That could change. Yeah.
Okay. What about the movie The Omen?
Yeah. I was young when I saw that, but that was the little boy standing there.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Damien, which actually in Greek, the name Damien means demon.
And the girl jumps off the roof.
Yes, yes. So if you're named Damien, you're a demon, according to the translate. What it's a Greek name, but okay. There's another one years ago. Many of you guys might remember. If not, Google it. It was called Beyond the Door. I don't know if
seen it.
Okay, look it up. It was a woman that got demonically possessed, and it came out in the 70s as well.
Okay,
and it was called Beyond the Door. So when you guys get a chance, check it out. There was also one movie that I posted up on the Freaky Tales podcast that my father introduced me to. It's called Gargoyles.
Oh, I haven't seen that either.
That was a really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid. It was on TV, but these guys look like demons, you know. So I'm just throwing some movies out there. Any movies out there that you can bring up that maybe made an impact in your life?
Just horror in general. Just the Halloweens, obviously, and Exorcist are pretty much the core. The main ones, the core.
Okay, what about now? I know this is not horror, but at least you can kind of, I don't know what genre of movie you will put it under, like Jaws, the first one.
That's my favorite movie of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's horror.
Yeah.
I think horror can be a whole onslaught of different things, whatever you think horror is, and that to
Right.
me is horror.
Right. Okay. Just really quickly, we'll jump around because I know we have a couple of things that we want to tackle a little bit.
Yeah.
We touched on last time you were here, but for those that you guys that weren't here, didn't tune in, we're going to recap some things. For an example, talking about horror, the O.J. Simpson.
Mm-hmm.
You've been to the actual location where it took place?
Yeah, many times, and many of the relatable locations involved with that night.
Now, his house is gone now, if I'm correct. Right? Okay.
There's a house on top where it used to be.
Okay. But you went to the one when it was his?
Both,
and then,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about Nicole's place?
That still stands. You know, I went there. I did an episode. Check it out. We visited that place. That's still there. You know,
Okay.
The new owners or whoever, you know, reconstructed it. The only thing that I saw they changed is the front gate. So when you look from the street from Bundy, it doesn't look like it did then in '94. Actually, the entrance into the walkway is totally different too. So it throws people off, but not me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you've been there. Okay.
But it throws most people off.
One thing that I want to encourage people to do is that OJ did an interview where he was talking about, I believe, his book that he wrote, If I Would Have Done It.
If I did it.
If I Did It. This guy was accused of killing, his ex-wife?
Yes.
Okay.
And Ron Goldman.
And Ron Goldman. He was accused of, but he goes ahead and writes a book, If I Did It. Like pretty much is saying, this is the way I would have done it. Mm-hmm. What man in his right mind would write something like that about his ex or the mother of his kids? You know, like he was supposedly hurting. That's the mother of his kids.
Right.
But somebody offered me a book, and if I would have done it, it's the way I would have done. Who does that?
Right.
Then he does an interview, and this one was, to me, at least in my opinion, after watching this interview, is where I said this guy's guilty. Mm-hmm. Now, that's just my opinion. If you don't want to rock with it, cool. But he did an interview where the lady interviews him,
Judith Reagan, yep.
Judith Reagan, and asks him, if you would have done it, how would you would have done it? Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, hypothetically.
Right.
And then he goes into like detail, even to the point where in his hypothetical scenario, he's thinking, you know, I'll stand right here and he told me this, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you're not going to beat my ass. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
it's weird.
He's got to keep saying in the book, and then he'll laugh, hypothetically. Then he'll laugh. And then once he starts getting into everything afterward, he doesn't have to say hypothetical anymore because that was his defense, everything after, you know. But, yeah, he describes how he did it. Now, he said he went there with somebody named Charlie, which I don't know about that.
Right.
I mean, I'll listen to the argument that maybe somebody went with him, though I don't think so. I don't think he had any help. I think he did it alone. And just how he said, the only thing that surprised me that when he said it was that Ron Goldman came in through the back gate. In my mind, I always thought Goldman, for whatever reason, came in through the front gate. But now it makes sense because Goldman parked at the back alley. So it makes sense he would have walked in through the back. But OJ said he walked in through the back, and he turned, and he's like, who is this? You know? And the guy's like, hey, I'm here just to return some glasses. They were in an envelope. And then they start arguing. And then that's when he says he gets into a karate stance. Nicole comes out. Back then, OJ was, 46? Something like that.
Yeah.
He had some strength to him, you know, bigger guy. Goldman was 25. He was backed into that corner by that tree. He had nowhere to go. Guy had a knife. What are you going to do? It's dark. So he tells you what happened. He tells you how he did it.
Yeah.
You know, he says he blacked out when it came to the gruesome shit. But then when he woke up, when he came to, he said there was blood everywhere. He takes off, jumps in the Bronco, goes up the alley, and goes back home. So in his explanation, he said he was on the street behind him and cut through that guy's yard.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that I buy that.
Right.
You know, because to buy that means somebody was with him because somebody still parked the Bronco. So.
Yeah, you know, but first of all, I'm not going to speak on my family like that if I would have done it, if I did it. I wouldn't be giving hypothetical scenarios on how I would have done it.
Right.
You just don't do that. you know, and for him to go on TV and give a interview on how he would have done it, you know, I remember I showed that to a couple of my friends that really thought that he was an innocent dude, you know, and after they saw his hypothetical interview, they couldn't believe their ears.
Right.
Like they couldn't believe. They were like, many of them were like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? And I go, yeah, this was hidden from everybody.
Right.
Check it out, and it's on YouTube. People can, you know, Google this. Go on YouTube. OJ gives us if I did it interview.
Yeah.
Okay, and when they were looking at it, they just couldn't believe it. They're like, they were saying, this motherfucker did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he did. Yeah, and yeah, it's the interview with Judith Reagan. There's another tape he did. Remember, he had a guy come over to the house, Ross something, and this was back in probably 96. OJ put out a VCR tape. I bought it. Anyways, he takes you into the house and shows you, see, this is where Cato said this, and it's not true, and he shows you the house, and, you know, it's very interesting, too, because it shows you the grounds of the house. OJ walks you through the house. But the one with Judith Reagan, yeah, that was released in, I think, 2016, but he shot it way back in, I want to say, when that book came out, which was 08.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he tells you what happened. All you got to do is listen, you know. For me, with that case, one thing you can't get away from, it's unequivocal, it's undeniable. The blood at Bundy was there when OJ was in Chicago, which means there was no blood to withdraw, to plant. That's a fact. That's a fact. You know what I mean? He wasn't there for anyone to pull blood out and start dropping it. He was gone. He was out of state, you know. So even at his house when they were collecting, he was gone. So it's kind of hard for me to believe the planting. Now, I can listen to the argument that maybe they went to try to frame a guilty man and maybe added some more shit. Maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. It happens, obviously. But the fact remains that he had a big nick on his left finger, middle finger, that matched the drops at Bundy, to the left side of the shoe prints that matched his Bruno Magli size 12s. These are facts. You know what I mean? They're indisputable.
You know, now let me ask you this, and I've asked people plenty of times this.
Sure.
When is the last time you cut yourself on a broken glass?
I don't know. It's happened. I just don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, I'll tell you when mine happened. I was a kid, and I actually still have a little scar right here.
Yeah.
It was a kid. I broke it, fell on the ground, I slipped, and I fell on top of it, and it freaking stabbed me right here, okay? I was a kid. I just don't know too many people that, broken glass, and he said he cut it over there, so.
Right.
I don't know. That's just me. My thing is, you drop it, it broke. Do you dig back into the broken glass where it cuts you? And
That was just one of his many reasons, you know. It was the glass, and then he said he was fiddling around in the Bronco in front of the house with hangers and stuff. He could have cut it there. Could have cut it chipping golf balls. He had it all covered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, if you you remember as a kid how you cut it, and he doesn't remember yesterday how he cut it. You know, he had different answers. So
no, I remember exactly what house I was at when I cut the shit. So,
yeah.
Okay. There was one more I wanted to bring up really quick from our notes. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on the Manson that you didn't touch on?
No, I think I covered it. If you have any other questions now,
okay.
If anyone has any questions, I can try to.
Okay, and if not, we covered it Manson when he was here last, but we also talked a little bit about it on the podcast where he interviewed me, and he gave it a little bit more in depth. So once again, I encourage you to not only follow him, but go on his link on his bio and subscribe to his podcast. And you can check out our interview. Let me see.
By the way, if anyone's interested in any of these cases that we talked about, Manson, OJ, Sherry Joe Bates, I give all this narrative as well as visit the crime scenes today. So if anyone's interested in that, you can check out the episodes where we actually go now, so you can kind of put eyes on the location.
Where it happened. So Black Dahlia, anything on that one?
That's what, January 15th, 1947, still unsolved. 53, 63, 73, 74 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, still unsolved. Yeah, that one right there on 39th and Norton. It was a field. Some lady was walking by and found one Elizabeth Short sliced in half, drained of blood, with a smile cut into her face like the Joker would have
Right.
today. Nude. She had punctures in her body. And again, unsolved. There's different theories. Is it Hodel or Howdell? One of these guys has a theory that his dad did it because he found, one of the reasons is he found some pictures of a woman in his dad's scrapbooks that he thinks is Elizabeth Short. My opinion, doesn't look like Elizabeth Short to me. I'm not saying it isn't. The one theory that I can go with is this LA Times journalist, a man by the name of Larry Harnish. He investigated this whole thing, and what he found was, while he was digging for info, was what we know. She was last spotted at the what the hell? It's that hotel, the Biltmore. The Biltmore. On January, I want to say 9th, she was in the lobby. So, while he was investigating this, he was getting a bunch of stuff sent to him. And Elizabeth Short had a sister named Virginia. Virginia got married. And on the wedding certificate, or whatever that document is, at the bottom, a witness signed it, right? It was one of Virginia's friends. I forgot her name. But she signed it. She put her address. Her address was 1 block away from the crime scene. So now you have a link, right? The witness that signed this document, her father was a man by the name of Walter Bailey. Walter Bailey was one of the top surgeons in LA at that time. So now you have a link. Now you have one house that connects two sisters a block away from the crime scene, where a woman was sliced right through the vertebrae surgically, drained of blood somewhere else.
Wow.
So Walter Bailey, I would lean towards Walter Bailey as being guilty of that, in favor of anyone else, to me.
Right. Okay.
Just, especially in location of the crime scene and stuff like that.
I know it's never been solved, but from what little you have done, well, from a lot that you have studied and looked into it, why do you think that was done to her? Was it just like, because I can do it and they just did it? What would be the motive for that?
Maybe something she did around the house. Man, if she was around the house, maybe she was around, and maybe this guy tried to maybe hit on her or something. Maybe he was rejected. Maybe he was pissed off at the wife, because at that time he was having an affair with some nurse or something from his office.
Okay.
So maybe something just clicked, and he wanted to do it in his neighborhood. Maybe the neighborhood reminds him of just negative thoughts. You never know what clicks and ticks in people. So I would say something has to do with that neighborhood. Larry Harnish talked to the medical examiners at the time, his wife. She's a widow now, that guy passed. And whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing. Because no blood, I think one drop, but to bring two pieces of someone there already cut, already drained of blood, I think you got to kind of know what you're doing.
Exactly. So here's what we're going to do. Alex, go ahead and put the number up. We're going to take just a couple of phone calls. We got about 15 more minutes left. So I'm not going to stay up too long, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to log in. So let me go ahead and set up the Bluetooth.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, you guys, it's allergy season and my nose is kicking my butt right now.
Yeah.
So, I'm connected. So, okay, we got a call right here. Let's go. Let me see. Hello, caller, are you there? Hello, caller.
Yeah, hey, what's going on, Tony? This is Gustavo from Bakersfield.
Gustavo, how are you doing from Bakersfield? You got a question or you got a story you want to share?
I got a question, a story I want to tell real quick, Wizard.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is just a quick story, man. So my dad, he's from Michoacan, right?
Yes.
And he's telling me a story, dude, that when he was younger, he was dating some girl que decía, and they used to say that she was like a witch, you know?
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is, you know, all of my dad's friends would tell him, hey, dude, you need to leave her. You need to leave her because she does this, she does that. And you know what? He decided, you know what, my homies are right. I'm a leave her. So he's walking her home, and to get to this girl's house, he had to pass by a very long callejón, a very long
alley.
Yeah, an alley. Yeah, my bad. So, you know, he was walking her, and she was like really sad. And she asked him like, hey, he asked her, what's wrong? And she's like, I know what you're going to do. You're going to leave me. And my dad was like, why would he think that, you know? She was like, I just know. And then he's like, yeah, well, you know, I respectfully wanted to leave you. You know what? It's just not working out. And she was like, you know what? Your homies are wrong. They're wrong about me. They don't know me, and they don't know my mom. Because they used to say her mom was worse than her. Because I mean, she was like a bigger bruja, you know?
Yeah.
So she just like, he's trying to hold her, and she just like, stop, leave me alone. And she screams, dude. And my dad said that is the creepiest, scariest scream he's ever heard. His hair stood up, the hairs on his neck stood up, and everything. And she kind of left crying, dude, like with her head down. And he said, you know what? It's kind of fucked up. I don't want to leave her crying like that, you know? So he went after her, dude, and you know, she had her back to him. And when he put his arm around her to turn her around, dude, she had the face of a caballo, of a horse.
Mm. Wow. And you know what's weird about that? There's been a lot of stories that a lot of people have seen. People, not just necessarily women, but also men, with horse heads. I've always wondered about that, you know, because there's a lot of people that have seen sightings of people with horse heads. And I've always wondered why a horse head. Yeah. Wow.
And you know what? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but there's a little bit more to it, and I promise you I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
So that happened. Whatever. My dad ran home, dude. He ran home as fast as he could, and he got there and he told my grandpa, his dad, about what happened, and he was like, shit, like you shouldn't have done that. You know, you could have gone another way about that. And he took my dad outside, and let me remind you, dude, this is about 2 a.m. He took my dad outside, and they went to the front yard, and he was like, yeah, just as I suspected. He looked at the tree. They had a big old tree in front of their house, and there was an owl there, dude. And my dad tried throwing rocks at the owl, and it would hit the owl, but the owl would not budge. It just wouldn't budge.
Wow.
So what my grandpa said was, you know what? The owl, there's a moon shining on it. You can see the shadow of the owl on the ground. So what my grandpa did was he got a big old ass rock, and he hit the shadow of the owl, and the owl just dropped, dude. It completely dropped.
Wow. Wow, that sounds real creepy. Right
And you know what? It reminded me of a podcast you did not too long ago about how when someone dies, se les cae la casa, the house just, you know?
Yes, you're right.
Because that ended up happening the next day, and the next day, not only did the house fall, but the owl wasn't there anymore. Wow.
Okay, Gustavo, man, thank you for sharing, man. I greatly appreciate you calling and being a part of the show.
Hey, real quick, Tony.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank you, thank your guest, and thank the person who showed me this podcast, Sergio XA. He keeps me up to date on all your stuff, all your projects, and trust me, man, he has Bakersfield bopping their head to all your shit, man.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man.
Thanks,
Greatly
brother.
appreciate it. Much love to Bakersfield. Have a blessed night, bro.
Thank you, man.
Okay, let's take we got 2 more phone calls. Anybody want to call? Give us a call right now. The number's up on the screen. So let's see. We got about 10 minutes. I want to give you guys at least an opportunity to give a call. Okay, here we go. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello, caller. Are you there, caller? Give me a couple of more seconds. Okay. Let me go ahead and disconnect. Oh, I heard him, huh? Hello, caller.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? This is Gustavo from Bakersfield.
Gustavo, how are you doing from Bakersfield? It's replaying. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're connected. I don't know why it keeps disconnecting, but let's go. Callers, anybody want to call? Anybody out there right now? You got a freaky question or a freaky tale? Or you may have a question for Mike Santana. Okay, we give you guys a couple of more minutes. If not, we're going to carry on. Until then, Mike, till we get another call, let me ask you, what projects, or if any, are you working on right now that people can possibly be expecting on your podcast?
Oh, podcast-wise, true crime is going to be a lot more at the forefront next. So particularly right now, me and a couple of Halloween fans, friends of mine, came over and we did about a 4-hour omnibus is what we call it. We ran through the entire franchise.
Okay.
And talked about the ups and downs and what we liked, what we didn't like, so on and so forth. So I'm working on that, but that's a 4-hour project. So I'm going to put that out in different parts. Part one should be up hopefully in a couple of weeks. As far as the true crime stuff, yeah, I've got things lined up. We're going to do the JFK one.
Okay, we got a phone call, so let's take that. Hello, caller.
Hello, hi, Tony.
Yes.
Hi, this is Candace from Bakersfield.
Candace from Bakersfield. How you doing? You know what? Thank you for calling. You're a regular. You're no stranger to Freaky Tales. Thank you for calling, though.
Yeah. Hi. No, I just called to tell a quick story about something that happened to me back when I was younger.
Okay.
This one day, I was out with my friend and her cousin and his friend, and we went to the store to go get a couple of tall cans. Mm-hmm. And on our way, we were going. I had this feeling. I told them, hey, something bad's gonna happen. I don't know. I just have this feeling that somebody's going to die tonight. And they started her cousin started saying, yeah, I have that feeling too. We have a bad day today and stuff. And then we stopped at the store, got our stuff. And then when we were on our way back home, he decided to take the long way around. And as we did, we end up getting in a wreck. And when we got in the wreck, he had died. He got killed in the wreck.
Wow.
And me and my friend, they hurt the other guy that was with us. He was the one that pulled me out because it knocked me out. And then when we got out, I just remember I felt it. I felt like something was going to happen, but I had no clue that it was going to be us, And then I used to have dreams. After he died, I would have dreams of him, and it would be weird because he'd visit me in my dream, but it would be his head would be on fire.
Wow.
But I didn't know what that meant. Yeah, so I don't know. It was just one of those freaky things that happened to me. I just thought I would share with you.
Cool. Thank you, Candace from Bakersfield. We're glad you can join us tonight. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
As far as the head being on fire, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Anything, Mike?
No, it's above my head on that. I don't know.
That was a little freaky, but
Yeah.
I'm glad you shared, Candace. Yeah. We got a chance. We got one more phone call. Anybody who wants to be the last caller, please call us and let us know. We usually take the phone call the last 30 minutes, but many of you have DM'd me and complained. The phone calls take away from the show, and then some of you guys say, not enough phone calls, so I'm trying to find the fine line so that you guys can still be entertained. But we have enough time for one more phone call, and we'll see. We got at least about 5 more minutes, so we got time. But so you got to drop in a 4-part series on. No, you got something coming out with JFK.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot that probably in January, but we're gonna cover. In the meantime, we're gonna start covering Hillside Strangler.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. We do want to hit the James Dean spot. I've mapped that out already. So,
Okay.
What else? I want to do the Bank of America North Hollywood shootout. Area 2.
That's a good one.
I've been there a couple times already. Interesting story there. When I did go there, real quick, there's a Baskin Robbins right across the street. We go in there to the Baskin Robbins. This was probably early 2000s. Anyway, this dude that was working there goes, "Hey, come back here to the room. Let me show you something real quick," because we were talking about the shootout.
Yes. Hold that thought. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Are you there? If not, I'll give you a couple of more seconds. Okay. Well, for some reason, we're not getting any calls, but I'm going to, you know what? We're just going to cancel the calls tonight. Let's go ahead and continue with that, please. Because for some reason, we got a problem with this Wi-Fi, or not Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth.
Yeah, all good. Anyways, there was still a bullet. There was a bullet that pierced the Baskin Robbins and embedded into the steel freezer back there. That was there years after.
Wow.
But no fatalities outside of the gunman.
Uh-huh.
That was an interesting case. I remember when it went down. But
wow. Well, you know what? We come to the conclusion of our show. I really want to see some of those that you were just talking about, because the Hillside Strangler is one that I've never heard enough of.
Exactly.
And then the shooting, I saw it live on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess the guy that was walking on the side of the bank, I don't know if he shot all his rounds and then took his life. Some people said he shot himself, and then some people say no, a sniper took him out.
He shot himself.
That's what it was.
With a handgun, yeah, sidearm. So.
Wow.
The other guy bled out. They let him bleed out.
Okay.
He was hit, and he was on the other side of that.
Yeah, they weren't going to help him.
No.
So, okay. Mike Santana, I want to tell you thank you very much for coming through, for sharing with us, sharing your knowledge, sharing everything you've studied, everything that, you have put together. And if you guys want to get an in-depth look at some of these subjects that we covered, go and once again subscribe to his podcast. And he has episodes there with pictures of him at these locations. And he goes a little bit more into detail. Today, we kind of just gave a quick recap of a lot of things that he has already on his podcast. So once again, subscribe to his podcast, hit the notification bell button for future content. You just heard the things that he'll be having soon. So other than that, Mike, anything else maybe you didn't talk about, anything you want to share, anything you want to say?
No, I think we covered it. I just want to thank you again for having me on. And again, if anyone's into those true crime stories, we got some incredible shots of the scenes, a lot of drone footage, Spawn Ranch. It gives you a whole different view of these scenes today if you're into that kind of stuff. So
awesome. Other than that, let me give a couple of shout outs. Alex Cervantes Enterprise, you can follow him at 81 Cervantes Enterprise. My son B Scallons for helping promote this. Anthony the Hip Hop Jedi. And I also want to thank all the Freaky Tales subscribers, everybody who follows me, everybody who likes and comments, shares, likes, dislikes, whatever, subscribes. Make sure you guys hit the notification bell button all this month, okay? Because make sure you guys hit that, because all this month we're going to have Freaky Tales. I'm even going to try to do some possibly even on a Friday and then a Monday. But as of right now, every Friday for the rest of this month. We're not taking any more calls, so I know a lot of you guys are trying to call still. But next time we'll start it a little bit early. I'm trying to keep everybody happy. Many of you say too much phone calls takes away from the show. Some people say too little phone calls, not enough for the show. So I'm trying to find the right, how to do it right to keep you guys entertained. So other than that, see you guys next Friday. Once again, the first Friday of October was tonight. Thank you very much, Mike Santana. Follow him on Instagram. Subscribe to him. Once again, see you guys next Friday. Expect the unexpected, and we're out of here.